So I'm going to go and watch the new Mission Impossible Final Reckoning this afternoon, and having rewatched Dead Reckoning Part 1 last weekend, I have a few predictions about what this finale film is going to hold. Firstly, I think one of the main characters is going to die, but I don't think it will be Ethan Hunt. We had Ilsa in the last film, and I think that Grace and Paris are too new to die and it mean anything, so I think sadly it's going to either be Benji or Luther. I love Simon Pegg, don't want Benji to die. Luther has been there since the very beginning, so you never know. Either would be a good motivational choice for the entity and for Gabriel to kill, but I think one of them is going to have to go. Secondly, I think they're going to need to do a lot of work to get the audience on side with this entity villain. In Dead Reckoning Part 1, there was a lot of waffle, a lot of the entity knows we're going to do this, we can't do that, it already knows, we need to subvert its expectations, we need to do the last thing it could ever think of, and I think there's going to be a lot more of that in this film. So, let's go and watch Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, I'll let you know my thoughts after. So I'm back after seeing Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, and I think I definitely prefer it to Dead Reckoning Part 1, and here are some thoughts I had. So, looking at my predictions, spoiler warning, I thought a main character would die, and given how nostalgic this film was, given how much it pulled from the rest of the series, I think it maybe made more sense that Luther died in this than Benji. Luther's been with Ethan from the very beginning, whereas Benji's only a more recent addition, so maybe it makes more sense for Luther to die, to give Ethan that emotional motivation to get him through the film. As expected for a film that's 8th in the series, it leans a lot on the older films. There are montages and clips of previous films, of previous characters, and a lot of the side characters in this film have links to previous films. Seemingly every side character has either been in a previous film or is related to a character in a previous film, so there are lots and lots of moments like that. If you're an OG fan of the franchise, maybe you enjoyed this. I found it a little bit draining, how every single character seems to have a link to previous Ethan Hunt or previous Mission Impossible films. Again, given it's film number 8, given it's the final reckoning, Tom Cruise has a massive saviour complex in this film. He is the only one who can stop anything. He is the only one who can control the power. Everything comes down to him. I'm hoping that he steps away from Mission Impossible now, or at least Ethan Hunt steps away, and maybe we see, if they're going to make another one, we see maybe a new side to the IMF, maybe the beginnings of the IMF, or we see a different character, but no more Ethan Hunt. Secondly, my prediction about the entity waffle and all the AI mumbo jumbo that happens. You do get a big expositional dump at the beginning of the film to try and contextualize it, to try and bring the audience in to what's actually happening. You also get very convenient plot devices, you get pinpoint timing from all the characters needing to be in all different places all over the world. But as you're watching these films, you're reminded of how ridiculous they are. They are a spectacle. And so you kind of forgive these moments. You know that they're going to happen, but even still, you are entertained when you're watching it. I don't think Gabriel's that interesting of a human character. He's not really that compelling of a villain. And the AI is this kind of overarching technological villain that's there. And that's quite hard to grasp. Whereas in this film, it feels like they're more going after things. They're trying to see what the key unlocks. They're trying to get this piece of technology to another location. It's not really about fighting Gabriel, although that does happen at the end. It's much more about getting from place to place and finding the things, and I think that's maybe why I preferred it, because in film 7, Gabriel isn't that interesting, the entity's not really there. I do miss Henry Cavill though. I think he was such a good villain in film 6. And those arms. Yes, please. Now talking about the female characters in this film, because I feel like Mission Impossible as a franchise, it's definitely better than James Bond in terms of the female characters, but still not great. I'm very glad that Grace and Ethan did not kiss, although they've been close at points. I think the fact that she doesn't get romantically involved, at least directly that we see, with Ethan is a benefit. I think she was as good as she was in Dead Reckoning Part 1, but I'm disappointed that we didn't see more of Paris, because I think Pom Klementieff is a really good actor. I think we could have delved more into Paris's character, her backstory, and I think Pom would have really brought that out and portrayed it really well if she'd been given the chance and the time to be able to do that on screen. However, what we've come to expect from Mission Impossible films in recent years is spectacle. And from a cinematic point of view, this film is amazing. The submarine and the biplane scenes are phenomenal. The submarine scene isn't afraid of darkness. It needs to be lit some amount so that we can see what's going on, but it's not afraid to be murky. We understand what's happening in the submarine. We understand where the missiles are in relation to Ethan. We understand where he needs to go. and I think that was really well done. It was really tense throughout as the water level kept rising and the submarine kept turning. You see the water level move with the camera. I thought some of those shots were excellent. And with the biplane scene, clearly I'm just a fan of Tom Cruise hanging onto the side of planes because it looks incredible. The wire work in and around the wings, having him try and get into the cockpit, then get out of the cockpit, get onto the second plane. It was shot beautifully. It was really tense. It was really gripping. And Gabriel gets an end that I think he deserves. One woman genuinely squealed behind me when Gabriel gets hit by the wing of the plane, and it was a great moment, and it was the culmination of a really, really tense scene, filmed beautifully. So overall, I had a really good time with Final Reckoning. Definitely prefer it to Dead Reckoning Part 1. I still think Ghost Protocol and Fallout are maybe better, but I'll need to rewatch all of them and see how they stack up. I've heard really good things about Mission Impossible 3, which I haven't actually seen yet, so that's definitely been added to the watch list. But I think Final Reckoning had good pacing, great cinematography, as good of a villain as 7, but I think because we didn't see them as much, it felt better. So yeah, I had a really good time. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen it. Let me know your thoughts about the entire Mission Impossible franchise. This has been Real Simple Reviews. I'll see you on the next one.